Living Local presents Biz Buzz 413 with your host, Jill Munson.
And before we get started with today's episode of Biz Buzz 413, a couple quick thank you shout outs. Tiger Web Designs, thanks for making us look awesome on the World Wide Web. A thank you to my company, Pop More, confidence coaching and training done differently. And of course, a huge thank you to livinglocal413.org. Welcome into another episode of Biz Buzz 413. I am your host, Jill Munson, thrilled to have you along for this wild ride. Our show is part of Living Local 413. It's an initiative that was founded by Bill Cole, and its mission is to fuel local success through combining strategies and connections and resources and doing it all up and down and across the 413. We couldn't do it without our groundbreaker sponsor, Home City Development. They've been building better neighborhoods since 1967. They're based out of Springfield, Mass, and Home City is a believer that everyone deserves a quality home, because when people have a place to call home, communities thrive. So thank you to them. And thank you to all of the listeners we've had. I do have some openings coming up. So if you're interested in being on the show, or you know somebody who should be, make sure you email me. You can do so at bizbuzz, that's one Z and then two, BIZBUZZ, bizbuzz at livinglocal413.org. Today, I am super excited to welcome a guest who I'm just getting to know as a human and also as an organization, thanks to, honestly, the 413 Entrepreneurial Spotlight. This is the executive director of the Massachusetts LGBT Chamber of Commerce. They were with us a few months ago at the 413 Spotlight, and the energy and charisma that this human gave me, I was like, can you be on my show like every week? So can we please welcome executive director, and I'm going to just call you Alex because Alexandria is just too long. So Alex Eberhardt, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. And you are correct. If you call me Alexandria, I'll probably think I'm in trouble, because that is typically the only time that my full first name is used. So Alex is just fine.
Give me your middle name and then you're definitely grounded.
Oh, done. It's Lee, Alexandria Lee. And all of a sudden my ears perk up. What did I forget to do? And we're going to go figure it out.
Big trouble. Well, I do want to first and foremost thank you, because I didn't have any openings, and I had somebody who had to shift their schedule around, and I had this like quick opening, and I called and I was like, hey, how about, can you come on today? And you were like, Jill, do you know what's happening tomorrow? And I was like, yeah, it's just kind of like a major first time event for you guys, but like, come on, Alex, you're an overachiever. So tell me what's tomorrow?
Tomorrow is so exciting. It is the very first annual. We are hosting the very first annual Massachusetts LGBTQ plus Business Awards. It has been an undertaking that we've been putting together for about 6 months. I'm about 16 months on the job here at the Chamber, and
wow.
Our community, our businesses, and everybody has just really stepped up this past year. And I'm sure we'll get into it, but it hasn't been the easiest year for the community. And so this is something that we will do annually. And something I'm incredibly proud of, to be our biggest champions of the people who have just done amazing work between community members, elected officials, corporate partners, small businesses, mentors from across the Commonwealth. It's truly going to be a special day.
It blows my mind that this is the first time it's happening, because Massachusetts is Massachusetts, right? And like, we're sort of the first for everything, I think, in a lot of the human rights spaces. So I'm grateful that somebody finally said, okay, let's do this. So I can't make it tomorrow. But what I would like is to make sure that, like, say, I don't know, I'll give you till Monday to give me next year's date. And then I want it. That's how far out I book, Alex. So I need it. So for listeners who, to be honest, like myself, before I knew more about you, and my company, Pop More, is officially a Massachusetts LGBT Chamber member. But for listeners who may not be familiar, can you share sort of the 30,000-foot view of what the Chamber is about, and, why you think the work matters to the broader economy beyond just the LGBT audience?
Oh, absolutely. And I know we're probably going to dig into this as well later, but 30,000-foot view, and then we'll jump out with a parachute and land on the ground somewhere. Is really, when I tell people kind of one line about what we do, is we drive equitable economic development across the Commonwealth, but also really across New England, because all of our economies, we're small states, are really interconnected. and we cross borders all the time, every single day, with our customers and with our products and with our community, but when I think about really kind of how we play a role, we're really a critical piece. The Massachusetts LGBT Chamber of Commerce is really kind of a critical piece of Commonwealth's economic infrastructure, right? We sit at the intersection of supplier diversity, small business growth, workforce inclusion, and then also regional competitiveness. Again, trying to get businesses here, trying to grow businesses here. Those business take those dollars, they pay their employees, and those employees build their families here. They live here. They put that money back into the economy, and so we are a really integral and necessary part of the economic system of the region. And being the LGBT Chamber of Commerce, we really focus on, especially in our programming and our technical assistance and our networking events, or like these awards, we really focus on providing opportunities, destroying barriers, providing opportunities for LGBTQ plus entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and their allies. And that's really kind of the catalyst, the small root. And then we just grow this tree in multiple different ways, depending on who the partner is, what the need is, if there's a policy that we're trying to make sure, just like when we think about procurement, and we can get into that, we were the first ones. We set the benchmark, nationally. With Charlie Baker and, signing us essentially into existence to provide an LGBTBE designation. And that's really special. And it's something we've been able to mentor so many states across the country on. And that's what makes Massachusetts special. As a Southerner, I don't know if you know this, but I didn't grow up here. I grew up in Texas.
I was like, how did you get rid of your twang? That's all I want to know. Like, can I get a hee-haw?
I love it so much.
I have to say, my sister-in-law is in Texas, and I think it's like the craziest thing. And I'm going to share this real quick story because you'll appreciate this. So I go to my first time ever to Texas. She's right outside the Dallas area, so it's kind of like not really Texas, as I like to say. So I go there, and I'm in a Starbucks, and this gentleman comes in. Now, mind you, I'm in a Starbucks, but this gentleman comes in. He's got a big cowboy hat on and boots and the buckle, and I'm like, oh my goodness. So I go over and I go, hi, sir. I'm from Massachusetts, and I've never met a cowboy. Can I get a picture with you? And he says, sure you can, ma'am, but just so you know, I'm not a cowboy, I'm a rancher. And I said, okay, I have no idea what the difference is, and neither of my friends can we get a picture.
You're like, that doesn't matter to them.
It was the fun, like lesson 101, do not insult a cowboy and a rancher by mixing them up, apparently. Anyway, so you came from the heart of, and I say this with the due respect that my I guess the they them pronoun for niece nephew is nibbling, which I haven't gotten used to, but Blaze is in Texas working feverishly in a school system to be able to allow young people to see their likeness in another human, right? But you lived in an area of the country where it's not like Massachusetts. So tell me about what the experience has been here, because yes, things are better in Massachusetts maybe than other places, but I think over the last few decades, the landscape has changed in some ways for LGBT entrepreneurs, but there's still some gaps. So tell me a little bit from your perspective and the chamber's perspective, what you see.
So much, I'll touch personal and then I'll go,
please,
the professional side of my life. But, personally, I would say just got incredibly lucky. And I say that because I have an identical twin sister. We both grew up outside Houston. Our mother grew up in Michigan, actually. So that's really why we don't have an accent, is we spoke like she did. And so but my twin and I were both very lucky. We ended up at Brown University for undergraduate education. And so that's what really brought us to the Northeast. We had never even been to this part of the country before undergrad. And we just fell in love. We fell in love with the seasons. I know people are not happy about all the snow, and it was a lot this year. The roof raking was a lot. But at the same time, I think aesthetically, this area of the country is so beautiful, and there's so much opportunity. And, I can be in Quebec City in hours, in the same amount of hours, I was still only halfway through Texas, and so there's so many opportunities. There's so many things to do. There's so many things to see, and also just fell in love with the people. When you grow up here, I tell people all the time, depending on who you are and, your own moral, ethical, political compass, I say, there are, as we know, different experiences based on where you are regionally, right? And the things that you grew up with. And and many decades out from school. So, growing up in the 90s in Texas was an interesting place, I'll
Yeah.
say that.
Yeah.
And so, we didn't even have full equality in marriage and such at that time.
Wow.
And so personally, I choose to be here. I chose to stay for grad school, for more grad school, and for all of my employment has always been in New England because this will always be home base. And it's always going to be a special place to me.
Like, just thank you for the reminder. Because
Yeah.
I think, well, I mean, I grew up here, right? And so my wife didn't. My wife grew up
Yeah.
all over, but she lived in California, Oklahoma, Texas, Idaho. And so she's gone the gamut of red and blue and, and purple, if you will. And it's just fascinating to me because I do think there is sometimes a forgetfulness of those of us who've lived here our whole life of exactly how lucky we are.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. There, I didn't grow up here, so I don't want to sit there and say it's a privilege, but I know what it's like to have an outsider's lens, spending the first 18 years of my life seeing things differently and coming to a place in which I felt more comfortable being myself. And that was the moment I came up to Rhode Island and found out that, we could say certain things out loud and that there were community members willing to mentor you and help you navigate what it's like to be in a space in a way in which you couldn't even, there were no words. You didn't speak these things out loud.
Interesting.
At least where I was kind of growing up. So, and I can't say what it's like now for anybody within potentially the community. What I do know is I follow the politics very heavily in Texas still. And so I know what I see. I know what I read, but I don't have the lived experience of living there. Currently, I have the lived experience of living in Massachusetts, and I feel incredibly grateful and made the choice to live in Massachusetts with my wife and buy a home here and create our home base in Massachusetts, even over some other New England states as well.
Well, we're glad you did.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Me too. And, on the professional side, you're right. Things have changed over the past few decades. We look at LGBTQ plus entrepreneurs, kind of decades ago, right? Even think, 90s and such being fairly kind of invisible and being recognized for their contributions into, the economic system and how much we bring to the economy of the United States every year. And then, right, we've got early 2000s. We've got the creation of the NGLCC. We've got the LGBTBE certification, right? The creation of these affiliate chambers, which we are one of them out of the NGLCC. How we connect LGBTQ plus entrepreneurs, businesses, procurement, ERGs, hiring, right? All HR policies for two-parent homes and leave, and what all of those things you think about look like, being able to connect to Fortune 500 and such. But when we look at, policy and policy progress, right? Things like non-discrimination laws, marriage equality, Massachusetts, like you already stated, and like we spoke about, being the first in the nation to include LGBT businesses in state supplier diversity benchmarks.
Right.
And it's just like these, we are, kind of the pioneer of, those things, but there's still gaps. And when you think about the things that I've really been fighting for over, this past year, right, is LGBTQ founders and businesses, right, still face higher denial rates, right, worse terms in lending and investment, have a harder time finding funders, right, and then also looking at data. Data drives decisions. I say it all the time.
Yep.
The D drives D, right? Data drives decisions, right? And right now, we know that federal data collections are being dropped, making it harder, right, for documentation to be able to prove those things.
Right.
And we're also saying and have seen nationally, and it's been in the news, and we know this because it's happening locally as well, corporate DEI, transparency rollbacks, that really kind of, I would say, threaten that supplier diversity pipeline, something that we've worked so heavily on and we will, and we're doubling down on that, as is the state on their benchmarking. But these are things in which we're having to kind of scale up and advocate for in greater numbers, that we're kind of moving slowly. And now there's this huge force politically fighting against it on a federal level.
Which is, yeah. Okay, we don't have enough time for all of that.
Yeah, I know.
That being said, so one of the big ahas for me, and this is anybody who's listened to the podcast knows one thing about me is I speak my mind. So, which is why I think we get along, Alex. One of the things that when you guys were coming to be one of the spotlight guests at the 413 Entrepreneur Spotlight, I thought, oh, really? This is like a Boston-based organization. I truly had no understanding that you were in Western Mass at all. at all. And so then I met you and I met Angie and I heard what you guys were doing and I heard what you were doing in Boston, which is super important, but then also what you were doing here in the 413. And I was shocked. So I want to use the next like minute or two just for you to talk about how important Western Mass is to the fabric of the Massachusetts LGBT Chamber, like that Western Mass in the 413, be it Hamden, Hampshire, Franklin County, Berkshire County, that's not forgotten. So tell me a little bit about what the intention is to make sure Western Mass is part of the overall mission.
Oh, Western Mass is paramount. When I talk about Western Mass daily, and even in Boston, when I'm in Boston, because Western Mass is just growing exponentially. When we think about our business growth, even with small businesses as a part of the chamber, with our corporate partners who are now contacting us and saying, you're right, this is an important piece of the ecosystem. And these small businesses are an important piece of the ecosystem. How do we get more involved? How do we help get resources into the community or funding, and stuff like that, or use procurement? Right. And supplier diversity opportunities. And Western Mass is I would argue, and I'd have to look at the numbers again, but our fastest growing part of the state is Western Massachusetts, for sure.
I can tell you that, first of all, so Angie, and I don't know what Angie's official title is. If you have it, you could tell me, because
amazing person.
I was going to say like all around hell of a human. Is
all around amazing?
Is that a title? But Angie lives in Western Mass, and so I don't want to say that like if you don't live in Western Mass, you don't care about Western Mass. But I want to point that out because I think that there is an extra layer that Angie brings to the table by being here in the community. And so we just did a virtual networking, which was super because I got to meet some new people from Central and Eastern Mass. But I want to shout out a couple that were on the call because they were at the networking that we had. I don't know if they're members or not, but I'm assuming they are. There was John Marks from Leeds. And then there was Jen Batty from Northampton. And then we had who else do we have? We had somebody else that I'm losing their name, which is terrible, but we had some really awesome. Chantel Davis Grace from Western Mass. And it was so awesome to have the representation from this community because I didn't know, not that I didn't know there was people that were part of the community here, but I didn't know that we had we had a posse. We have a Western Mass posse, and it was pretty cool. So shout out to them. And thank you for making sure that this part of the community is also represented in the organization because it's important. And I think we often, I could speak a little bit for myself and then for the broader group, but I feel like we often feel like we're forgotten out here. I want to ask you about the you guys offer a lot. I mean, obviously you're doing things with the legislature and, going and fighting on behalf of really big initiatives and important things like equity, as you were discussing, but you also do really great events that members and non-members can attend. And so you offer, different events, but trainings, obviously the certification, which we could talk about in a minute, but can you share a little bit about, and I know I'm putting you on the spot and you might not remember them all, but I have the calendar pulled up, so I might be able to help you. But you have a lot of really great stuff coming up, including a couple here in the 413. So tell me a little bit about what you got coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and you probably can have a better days. Some of them I have in the top of my head, but, just kind of set the foundation is, something that started when I first came in, and Angie was already a bit of the catalyst for this, and then really solidified when I came in and said, yeah, this is absolutely what we're doing is getting people in the room together again. So we do multiple networking opportunities every single month. Angie and I attend all of them. I live in North Central Mass. She lives in Western Mass. So we just put a indescribable amount of miles on our cars each year. And so, we will be hosting something in Salem, Mass in the morning and drive out to Pittsfield that afternoon for an event there.
Yeah, I love it.
I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I have a ton of recommendations.
I was going to say, you're like a podcast guru.
So, I listen to a lot of books. Ironically, I've never listened to a podcast. I don't want to veer off track, but I have many on the list. I've just never done podcasts because I love books so much. I just always, if I'm not reading a hardcover, I'm always reading an audiobook.
Well, I'm just telling you, you better put me on the list.
Okay, 100%.
You need to I'm on Spotify, I'm on Apple, I'm wherever you get your favorite podcast. I better be on your list. But let me just shout, there's a few literally going on that I want people to know about. Next week, which is March 10th, there is Emotional Intelligence intelligence and AI for your LGBTQ plus work life.
Yeah.
And that is virtual. So that's great. You can still sign up for that. And then there is coming up in, I'm just scrolling forward because I got to go looking forward. There is the next day, March 11th. I'll be there. Will you be able to be there, Alex, March 11th?
I do believe I'll be there. Yes.
Okay. So I know me and Angie will be there. I'm saying I'm going to be there because I already signed up, and last month I got sick and I couldn't go. But we're going to be at Fame. Fame is awesome. Fame in Holyoke, March 11th for networking. Yeah. And you don't have to be a member to come, right?
No, no, you don't. Typically, is it members? Yes, but it's also an amazing opportunity for people to just come and check out the community.
Right.
Come and meet people. And as you start to build those relationships, you then learn more about the importance of solidifying that relationship with the chamber and all of the stuff that we offer. And
oh yeah, you're going to become a member. We don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, exactly.
But you should come even if you're not a member, because then you get to know why, because that's how I fell in love, was I came and I fell in love.
100%.
And then the week after that, we're out in the Berkshires, March 18th. I don't know. I had a double commitment. I'm trying to wiggle around, but at Wander Berkshires on March 18th. So just like I point that out because again, sometimes it's like, well, they only go as far as Springfield, and that's not the case. 413 includes the Berkshires. So thank you. Will you tell me a little bit about certification? Because I know that that's a really important part and a major offering for the organization. And I still struggle as a small business owner. I'm like, well, why? Why? And so can you tell me why and tell others why certification is such a powerful growth tool for their business?
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually partner. So the certification itself comes through the NGLCC. They're a certifying body. And then, people such as Angie and myself can certify local businesses to get that LGBTBE certification. Now that does numerous things. The analogy I always use is that it's kind of like a passport, right? You may not need it immediately. You may not, have an opportunity to use it, but get it, because you could have an opportunity overnight. But if you don't have that certification, you're now missing out on that opportunity. I tell it's the same thing. I use the menu analogy all the time. Getting the certification is getting yourself on the menu.
Interesting.
And corporate partners reach out to us weekly saying, hey, do you know a bakery who could do this event? We're doing a breakfast. Hey, do you know a flower shop? Hey, do you have somebody who does design? There are massive contracts statewide, as we know, that are IT, infrastructure, construction. Like those are a lot of the contracts people think about when they think about state procurement opportunities. But it's so much more than that. There's so many opportunities. Look at some of our small businesses. We're partnering now with the Red Sox, which was our first professional sports team partner. And we've worked with them for quite a few years now on running their Pride Night. And that's June 16th this year. And we have a special chamber link for that. Shameless plug. Our small businesses are the ones we are offering, as these are potential vendors for you in order to do all of the things that you want to do during Pride Night.
That's amazing.
Right? In that organization. Yeah. And then, when our small business members are the ones who win that contract, how special is it? One, for us to know that we help make that introduction. And two, now that small business just want to contract with the Celtics or the Red Sox, right? Or the Boston Fleet. And so me and my staff building these relationships with those sports teams has been really great. It's an amazing way for them to show up for our community. And it's an amazing way for us to be able to build new and really far-reaching opportunities for our small businesses. But that's why it's so important for our members to get this certification. And again, what it does is it really gets you on the committee, on the menu. I sit on the advisory committee now for the Supplier Diversity Office.
Oh, wow.
In the Commonwealth. Yeah. So I am actively working with the Supplier Diversity Office for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts on helping learn and educate our businesses on opportunities that are out there, on giving feedback to the Supplier Diversity Office on how they could be more equitable across the board. What are the numbers showing? How do we increase our benchmarking? Our certification itself, the LGBTBE certification, didn't even start getting benchmarked at a state level. And again, it can get really complicated until about 2023.
Oh, wow.
But what it says is that it says, hey, the state is actively trying to spend X amount of percent of their statewide yearly spend on LGBTBE certified businesses. And it's like, okay, well, if you're certified, and then you do have to do the state certification as well, which is much easier actually than the NGLCC one. I tell people that all the time. Once you've done that, if you've done the NGLCC one, it's easier to get on the state contracting website. And then businesses can just go directly to that website if they're trying to diversify their spend. You're now in the supplier diversity office of the Commonwealth. And so you have opportunities for people to see you in multiple lenses from multiple different angles. And so I cannot tell people to try and get certified enough. I am constantly trying to push it. And then I'm working on the state side to continuously try and understand new contracts and push those out to our small businesses.
I think that's, first of all, I didn't think it was possible that anybody talked faster than me. You win.
Especially a Southerner.
I was like, I haven't heard a bless your heart in there at all. But wow. And not only do you talk like the Micro Machine Man, which you might be too young to remember the commercial, but
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, you have to look it up. I'll try to find a link. Okay. You also not only talk fast, but you say the letters like so fast. And it's like, it's the funniest thing in the world, because all I can think of is being a kid with the soup and the alphabet and the letters in there and picking them up, because I'm like, the LGBT LMNOPXYZ pound hashtag, like, I don't know. I've lost track. So we do have to start to wrap up, because I think I could talk to you forever, but you have a big, important event tomorrow. I wanted to ask you one question. It's a little bit of the personal side. And, what personally, you've been here, I think you said 16 months. So, not even a couple of years now. What personally motivates you, Alex, to do and to specifically to lead this work?
Yeah. So I'm honest with people. I spent the first decade-ish of my career in higher ed, and then was, building things to help, undergrads succeed, and, working on the administrative side. And then, went and taught full time for a national workforce development program, and started to then kind of work in systems. At the foundation of who I am, I like to be a part of either breaking down barriers or creating things. I like to create things in which I can watch other people thrive. And that's why I went and taught full time. I taught full time for a national nonprofit for 4 years, and teaching my students, and then watching those students go and get amazing jobs, and to reach back out on LinkedIn and be like, I just became a senior wealth advisor at, Eastern Bank or wherever. Like, those moments of joy are absolutely my intrinsic motivator for the things that I do. And, what brought me here was working for that workforce development nonprofit, and then working in corporate development and state force, working for the state of Rhode Island, essentially during COVID, building workforce development pipelines to help unemployed or underemployed humans get reemployed, right? And to make wages to support their families. That it's huge. It put a smile on my face every single day. And that brought me into the chamber world. And we sit at the root of an ecosystem, and you can't build your business also if you have nowhere to live, if you can't get from A to B, and transportation isn't working. So when people say, oh, a chamber is just small business growth, no, we're not, because I'm absolutely advocating every single day for housing and affordable housing and transportation and affordable childcare. Because if you don't have somewhere to live, if you don't have a school for your child to go to, and childcare, you can't build your business, you can't grow your business, and you can't build your community. It is so interconnected. Everything is interconnected. And that's why I call it an ecosystem, because it is. And we are an important part of that ecosystem. And what really drew me to this specific job, is it kind of, it popped up, and I saw it, and I said, wow, here's an opportunity I'm probably not going to get maybe more than once in my life, of taking my skill set, academically, what I have an MBA, have an MS in higher ed, an undergrad degree. How can I take that skill set, and then what I've done over the past decade, 2 decades of my career, and really then focus on the community that I myself am a part of, and the community that I love, and the community that I want to help grow and succeed and break down barriers for. And if I can do that and help somebody else succeed, or another business go from A to Z, and they can support another business and mentor and lift while they climb, I've had a really great career.
Oh, I love that. Lift while they climb. That's
it was the motto of the CEO of the workforce development nonprofit. He constantly said, make sure to lift while you climb. And I have taken that with me for over a decade now. I say it all the time because I think it's easy to understand, and I think it has the impact I want it to make. And I remind myself, I'm doing this, and here's the reason. And I was able to break through this door. I was able to get a seat at the table. How do I pull somebody with me? Whose voice isn't here? What can I do? How can I help them find funding? And it's making sure that I know I'm not alone, but also that we have to do it together, and somebody can help pave the way, like humans have for me in my career. And how do I do that for other people? So that's kind of what drives me every single day. And I also am a massive extrovert, as you've realized. I love people. I love So for tomorrow, people are like, "Oh, I can't believe you're running this massive 200 person event and this and that." And I'm like, I thrive in these moments because they are they're moments of joy. It is a moment to shout people's wins from the rooftop and celebrate them as people and their businesses. And honestly, I will walk away and not sleep tomorrow night because I will be so amped up at just the positivity and the celebration that we have tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
That it brings me life.
Without a doubt. And again, I mean, I guess I didn't think anybody could talk as fast as me, and I didn't think anybody liked like doing the extrovert thing more than me, and you might be there. So we have to wrap up because I've gone already too long, but I just think you're just I think you're
my fault.
No, please. I think you're fabulous, and I would probably talk to you all day. First of all, I missed I was looking back at the notes from the networking, and I probably missed others, but I wanted to shout out Rachel Briggs from Western Mass because that was another person on the networking call.
Yeah.
I wanted to let everyone know that if you're a golfer, that they have a golf out. Get it? Golf outing. Sorry, I love a good play on words. That's coming up.
June 26th.
Yes. So I'm like, I'll put it on your calendar now, girl. June 26th. I'll put it in the notes of the podcast. And it's going to be in Worcester, which is perfect because it brings together everybody. And I love that. So, Berkshire's 413, we can come out, and then you get Boston, we all come together in Worcester. So hopefully people, if you don't already have plans, next Wednesday night, you can join us for the network meetup at Fame, which is in Holyoke. And if you're in the Berkshires, or it's not that far to travel, you can join us the following week, March 18th, at Wander Berkshires. Those are both networking events open to all to come check out what the chamber has. So last thing, what's your final, remarks, words, bits of wisdom, and will you share the website and how people can get a hold of you, whether it's email or how you prefer people contact you?
Me, absolutely. People can call the office. They can email me. They can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and chat us, and malgbtcc.org. That's our website. Please don't hesitate to reach out. We love hearing from you. We love hearing your feedback, your ideas, and ways to make this community better.
And I'll make sure that I share all of that in the podcast notes. Do you have a final bit of wisdom? I mean, I think you've already given us a lot, especially the idea to lift while you climb, but I want to give you the floor if you have a final thought you want to leave people with.
Final thought. Oh, I love that.
I mean, you're not like leaving the earth kind of final thought, but
Well, on my way to Mars, my last parting words to Earth are, no, I think it's, there's no greater joy than being able to be yourself and showing up as yourself every single day in the work that you do. So whether or not you own a small business, whether or not you work for a massive Fortune 500 company, finding the right resources, do not be afraid to ask for help. Do not be afraid to reach out. Because we're not alone. And the stronger we are as a community, the more resilient we're going to be during this time, and the better we're going to be on the other side of it.
Love that. Everyone, today's guest, Alex Eberhardt, Executive Director, the Massachusetts LGBT Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much. Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck tomorrow. First annual LGBTQ plus business celebration. I am so pumped for you. I can't wait to hear all about it. I am Jill Munson, the host of BizBuzz 413. Thank you again to Home City Development, our groundbreaker sponsor. Don't forget, next week coming up is the 413 Entrepreneur Spotlight. I will be live doing the podcast there. We have Women's History Month, so we have the Center for Women in Enterprise. We did have them on with us recently, so you can listen to that podcast. You can join us for the event. I think there's still seats, so go on and register. And last but not least, I always close the show by saying, something about how great our area is, right? And today, I think more than ever, getting a chance to talk to Alex. Alex grew up in Texas. And I'm not throwing out politics, but just the world is a bit different, we can say, just a bit in Texas. And for me, what that does is it reminds me to not take for granted what we have here in what I consider the best part of the country, the 413. Have an awesome day, everyone.
BizBuzz 413 was brought to you by Living Local.